if you start that process much, much earlier, as the ProSci method will tell you, you're going to have a lot better chance of success at successful adoption of change.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Process Lab. Sam Drawshak here, and I'm joined by Ryan Pollyniak. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yep, absolutely. As you all know, this is a show where we dive into various process topics. And today I'm excited to have Ryan, who is a seasoned sales professional with a rich background in the Microsoft Dynamics space. He's passionate about the future of AI, the cloud, and upgrading from legacy systems. He's a cloud transformation executive and has worked closely with executive teams of mid-sized businesses in a variety of industries to make them feel valued throughout the entire sales cycle. And with that, Ryan and I were speaking. He does a lot of strategic advisement, especially on high-level problems before he gets into that work. I'd love to just start the conversation there, Ryan, and hear a little bit more about what you do and how you think about problem solving at the highest level.
Yeah, sure thing, Sam. So, you nailed the intro. I've been helping medium to, lower enterprise level businesses re-envision their processes and, the buzzword of digital transformation, embarking on that journey, going on 15 years now. And so solving process issues, that is kind of the next step in the process after you strategize and understand where you want to go and what you want to do as a company. So what I'll commonly do is I'll start our conversations with a company in terms of, where are you now? Why are we talking? What are you trying to do from a business perspective? Not technology and how do I get to the cloud, but what are we trying to solve here? And so our company, Western Computer, we tend to leverage the Microsoft stack of applications to solve business issues, and there's a whole wide swath of applications that do all kinds of various things in that Microsoft stack. So if you're a mid to enterprise level business leader and you go try to find this out on your own through a search engine or AI bot, Copilot, whatever you want to do, there's quite a forest to weed through, especially when you're used to running your business. You're not doing this day to day. So my role, I consider myself a Sherpa is the term that I use, right? I'm gonna guide an executive through what elements of your goals can be addressed by the Microsoft stack, which applications are those, and how do we leverage them? And then what is the process by which we introduce them to your people and manage change within your organization? Because at the end of the day, technology has to match up with business process. And there's a massive human element to that as well, where your people have to adopt change and change processes, maybe processes that have been fully baked into an organization for decades. And everything's been done a certain way. And so what I help executives do is envision how that change is going to transpire, how to articulate that change to their people, and then how to execute it and follow through.
Great. Thanks for the overview. Yeah, and I have to say, I love the word Sherpa that you're using here, because in some ways it really is like walking up a mountain, right? Trying to get some of these projects over the hill. Where did that come from, the Sherpa term?
The Sherpa term, it kind of evolved over the years. So what I saw in my 15 years now is there early in my career, there was a massive shift to self-education. And that's a great thing, right? With the information age, you're able to go out and really sort through the weeds and figure out, where do I want to start before I engage a consulting firm? And that goes for any industry. Where do I want to start before I go talk to a car salesman or buy a house, right? You can do a lot of that self-education. But what I feel like has happened over the years is there's so much information out there now. Microsoft Dynamics, for example, you've got endless web content from Microsoft. You've got hundreds of partners. You've got customers, independent consultants, and everybody wants their clicks and their views, and they've got their websites and their blogs. And I'll tell you, some of the information out there is better than others, right? So I commonly talk to companies who have embarked on that self-education mission to prepare for digital transformation. But some of the ideas that they've gleaned are kind of headed in the wrong direction. So as a Sherpa, right, I do this every day, guys. I climb Everest, all the time. Let me take you through the weeds, direct you in terms of helping you understand what's available, how other companies in your situation have leveraged the tools out there. And at the end of the day, of course, it's the business's decision which direction to go. But you need an experienced person who is in this ecosystem and who does this every day, an experienced organization to help point you in the right direction. There are 15 Dynamics 365 applications out there, 2 ERPs, a whole host of CRM applications, enterprise data warehouse applications, business intelligence, you name it. So getting some direction is really a good thing. And then I absolutely encourage directed self-education after that, right? Let me arm you for what you need to go study up on and guide you in the process.
Yeah, it's great. And it's such a powerful point. And I want to make sure that everyone listening really understands this, which is, I don't think it's anyone, like all the businesses you work with, there's not a lot of businesses now that have a core competency in all this technology that they would need to actually advise themselves, right? Like if you're going to start moving into AI, you're going to start moving into more advanced technology, you need this, right? Like you can't avoid this step. But I mean, would you say from your perspective, without a guide, without some sort of consulting service, without some sort of, advanced knowledge coming from the outside, it's tough to catch up. Like it's tough to self-educate. I guess I just like to know a little more from your perspective. What is that gap? Is it even worth trying to tackle yourselves at this point?
I always think a general framework, go check it out online, plug it into I like Bing Copilot in terms of AI engines, or if you want to go use ChatGPT or whichever one you choose. And that way you at least have some questions to ask. Hey, I saw this, what this seems like it might fit my business. What are your thoughts on it? And then let me, direct a bit and guide. Every blog you run across is going to have some kind of self-interest typically attached to it, right? Let me guide you towards this solution. It's going to change your life. And while, of course, we're typically in the Microsoft stack, there's such a wide breadth of applications there that we have so many to choose from. We could fit a wide variety of businesses. And what I always encourage is also go talk to other companies, other consulting companies, competitors, get your head around what's available. Because any good consulting firm is going to want to get into projects that are a good fit and that are going to end in a positive result with the referenceable, positive case study at the end of the day. And that should be, what everybody's after, right? Get a wide variety of opinions and then drill in on that. One thing I would say is don't let your departments do this in silos. Everybody will go research. Hey, I'm in marketing. I need something for analytics and for lead scoring and for marketing automation. Let me go find it because I have some budget. And then manufacturing goes and they go out and they find an MES solution and the sales VP goes and finds a CRM, and then everybody comes back together and nothing works together. Nothing is connected. Everything's custom integration. So while I do encourage self-education and I do encourage that kind of, go research, then talk to some experts, then refine and kind of go through that cycle, you've got to do it collectively as an organization or have some kind of executive guidance to say, I know each department wants X, Y, and Z, but we need to look at this organizationally, holistically, and talk about, how is all of this going to function as one unified organism, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you use the word organism. That's a big thing that I use in a lot of my speaking and writing, and we could probably unpack that for a whole nother podcast. But I think the question I want to ask off the back of that is, how do you encourage that? You talked about when people come to you, they might say like, hey, we want to work with these Microsoft products. We know we need to get into this. And then it sounds like you take it a step back and say like, what is your operating model? What is your problem? What is your process? Talk to us how you navigate that conversation, because I feel like a lot of people are looking for solutions. How do you take it back to, you guys need to do this as a team? What's your process problem? I'd love to kind of hear your take on that piece.
Absolutely. So, you've got to understand the motivation of the individual that's looking for the solution, and then ask them, right? I'm always for transparency, talking to some of our other, people in our company in terms of how to bridge that conversation. What I always say is, be honest, be truthful, right? Mr. and Mrs. Marketing Director, do you guys have an overall vision for technology in your business? And is this something that the rest of the business is aware of? Is sales talking to you about how this marketing is going to feed into their CRM? Is operations going to talk to you or aware that you're looking at this so that when a sales opportunity in CRM flows through and it's going to connect over to the ERP and the warehouse is going to pick, pack, and ship it? And then and what I encourage, and this is not always easy, is to involve executive leadership who really needs to drive this, guys. And that has to be mandated really preemptively before everybody goes out and finds their own shiny toys. Hey guys, we're going to make technology decisions as a collective organization because we all work together. We're all part of the same organism, to go back to that term, and we've got to stick together on this. So I encourage executives as they're handing out budgets, and sometimes you get an information finder that will come out and say, I'm looking for an ERP system, or I'm looking for a CRM system, or I'm looking for a marketing automation tool. I was asked to come get a price, right? I always try to say, well, who in the organization can help us look at this holistically? Who can drive this strategy? And it's not so that I can go find a decision maker and get a contract signed. It's so that we can unify that vision and help, be a trusted advisor to say, hey guys, maybe you need to take a step back. And trust me, maybe it's sometimes you're not ready for this project. Maybe this is a year off for you guys. And once you get X, Y, and Z figured out, then we'll come back to what you asked me for. But you don't want to put the cart before the horse. One other analogy I like to use there is you maybe have a vision of building a 10-story building, and you're coming in trying to build just the first 2 floors right now. You better make sure the foundation is ready for 10 stories at that point, or you're going to be ripping it out in a few years and wasting a lot of money. And as you pile the rest of your overall solution on, if that makes any sense.
It does. And I was actually going to say, I totally think this is the right conversation that people should be having from a process perspective, especially now with everything being so interconnected. If you're not thinking holistically, it's very likely you're throwing your money out, or at least you're not going to get the ROI you're expecting. And I'm just wondering, from your experience, if you're having that conversation, how many people are actually ready? Because a lot of people are talking in silos still. And what does that conversation usually go for you? Because I feel like you're going to be the salesman that never makes any sales if you take that tack, just intuitively.
You can be. Usually you're going to have successful engagements, though. And that's the critical thing. So we've probably lost some contracts over the years, but we've gained, quite a happy customer base by slowing people down typically, because very commonly there's a core business requirement that's caused this company to reach out, right? Maybe our ERP is end of life and there's not going to be any support on it. Maybe there are disparate systems for inventory and accounting and nothing's working together and we can't generate accurate inventory cost and accurate financials and we need to solve this one key point, right? So my advice always is, let's stay focused, guys, because what always happens, or not always, but very commonly happens is, well, we also want to do this, and this. And there are all these nice to haves that just pour out of, the subconscious or we've had all this pent up projects that we want to do, and it's time to do it all at once. I think it's really important to bring people back and say, well, guys, we need to start with the foundation, blocking and tackling, right? And use a football analogy. It's got to be, here's what we recommend you start with. It's number one, you don't have unlimited budget. Sometimes there's a timeline involved. We've got to rein it in back to what you called me for. And there's a certain degree of change management that your organization can undergo at any one time. You've got to consider the day-to-day lives of your people who are using these systems to execute their jobs. They might have been using them for a long time. If you're gonna switch them all out at once, there's a tremendous amount of change there that is going to be sometimes difficult to stomach. You may lose people over it, right? And so I find myself more than encouraging executives to add on to projects and see how big we can get it. It's talking them down, saying, hey, here's what we need to do now, guys. Here's why. Let me remind you why you called us, and let's get that proper 10-story foundation in place, set you up for success to build on it incrementally as we move forward. I find that's the hardest part. When I have an executive say, I'm going to get you in touch with all my department heads and let them tell you what they want, and you give me a proposal, I'll typically have this similar conversation with them. Like, where do you want to start, guys? Because you can't do it all at once. You can't boil the ocean.
Yeah. I really appreciate the perspective, and I think it's such a needed perspective now more than ever. And it's the change management piece that's still so muddy for a lot of people, right? And you're talking about it. I want everyone listening to understand how critical this is as solutions become even more fantastical in a way and more magical with the advent of AI. It's easy to want way more than your organization can tolerate or handle.
Yeah.
So, I feel like a lot of people don't have the integrity you're talking about. It'd be easy to sell a lot of magic bullets right now. And I think talking about what is your actual capacity to change, what is your capability, slowing things down, I think it's a really refreshing perspective. And it sounds like from you're out there selling it, people are listening. So I guess my question out of that is, this is such an important thing. And you're saying from a sales perspective, this is working for you. This is creating better clients when you kind of counsel people. Hey, you can only do so much. I guess tell us a little bit more how that exchange usually ends with folks.
Sure. So sometimes it ends in people going another direction, and that's okay. We want to get involved where we can create a successful outcome at the end of the day. But what I encourage with the change management piece of it in particular is this has to be executive level mandate that processes are going to change, guys, because the pitfall that I see is we've been on this system for 20 years. It's outdated. We need to get to the cloud. We need to get secure. We need to take advantage of modern tools, AI. We want a software as a service based solution, but we want to rebuild everything the way we do it now, because I'm going to let every individual user and department dictate how they want the software to work, and I need you to demo this for me and deliver it. The pitfall with that is, Microsoft Dynamics 365 or SAP or pick your ERP system, it's not going to function the way that your old AS400 did, nor should it, right? There are all these new tools and features and technology and great things that you can take advantage of. Artificial intelligence, which, that's a separate topic that we can breach here in a minute. But if you don't inform your people, and I mean well before the project starts, because I've seen this conversation happen far too late into a project and it causes massive disruption. It's got to be before a project starts. Team from the CEO or the COO or somebody up top, right? We're changing. We've been doing things the same way for a long time. Organizationally, we have to adapt. Here's why we're doing it. We're going to allow you to execute your job and get to the end result it may just be a different way of doing it. It may not be the exact way you've been doing it with your spreadsheet and your email workflow and your custom application, right? But we're going to help you accomplish your goals with a modern tool set for the greater benefit of everybody, including you, so that the company can grow and so that we can be secure and we can be more efficient and all of those great things. If that change management conversation and mandate really doesn't come from the executive level, what you run into is, Ryan, here's how I do it now. How do I do it in Dynamics 365, which leads to customization, which is available even in today's software as a service-based systems.
Yeah.
There's a cost to it, though. There's a long-term maintenance aspect to it. So a good consulting firm is going to help you rein in and use modern tools as they're intended to be used, because the days of being on a system for 10, 12, 15 years and then doing a massive update are gone. These systems update themselves constantly. Any customizations and changes that you've done to the system, they will present potentially upgrade issues. Now, most of the applications, Microsoft Dynamics included, allow you to do those modifications outside of the core code and still get your updates, but there are implications there. So that's a long-winded way of saying use the tools as they're intended, guys. And that has to be driven by leadership telling the users we're going to change. telling them in time and explaining it appropriately, not we're gonna build your old process and dynamics to keep you happy, because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. There's so many gems here that you're dropping. I just wanted to emphasize to anyone who's paying attention, especially customization is becoming exponentially more expensive. It's very important to internalize that, because like Ryan is saying, you don't have much time. Like if you have a 1 or 2 year cycle to get use out of an application, you just don't have as much time for customization or managing it. That's one piece. But the change management piece and how that ties together, I just think this is very insightful, because the only way to avoid customization is better change management, a muscle that a lot of organizations just haven't had. And I'd love to know from your experience, where does this emphasis, especially so early on, because I totally agree, but where does it come from? Did you guys learn this the hard way? Did you study change management? Because I know change management is something people talk about, but it's sort of very ambiguous still. But like the idea that you need to lead from the executive level, you need to involve your people, you need to involve them very early. This is wisdom that's been around, but I'd love to know sort of how this became foundational to how you think about it.
Yeah, so we've been doing ERP for 25 years and implementing Dynamics before Microsoft even bought it, back when it was Navision and Exapta. And so, yeah, absolutely, there's tribal knowledge that's been learned over the years there. I've personally learned some of these lessons as well. And you know, I remember me personally going to a Microsoft Dynamics user group meeting in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I'm going to drop this company name because they won't mind me doing it. It's what they do. It's ProSci, Prosci. And they literally wrote the book on change management. Okay. They use Microsoft Dynamics, by the way, to run their business. And I sat there. I was there for the Dynamics aspect of it. And there were some customers there, and there were some, you know, but listening to the company talk about how they developed this method, the ADCAR method of change management. I don't know if you've heard of it.
ProSci certified.
There you go. Perfect. So I've been there to the office. Great group of people. And so ProSci started 25 years ago now, probably, with their founder saying, okay, you've got the same software, you've got similar companies, you've got same levels of project management, which is more tactical, budget, timeline, you know, risk, team morale, things like that. Why are some of these failing and some of these, you know, roaring successes? Where's the delta here? And they drilled into that, and they found that it was this change management element, this human element to, hey, is this process going to work for you? And here's why we need to change. And here's where you need to start that process. To me, that was a long time ago for me now. That was probably 12, 15 years ago. Maybe not, maybe 10 years ago, but it really opened my eyes to it. And I've read the book, and I've actually, as we start ERP projects, I'll commonly buy a copy of it on Amazon and send it to the internal team at the customer and say, hey, we're starting in 6 weeks, guys. Now's the time to read this and implement it and let everybody know what's coming, because once you get into the project, it's too late. We've taken over projects that Microsoft has sent to us because the customer goes back and they say, you know, your software isn't working. Well, you get into the details, and it's not the software sometimes, it's the approach to the project. And you find out, well, the users, the people, the key people that have been there so long, they're finding out about all this change when they're testing, ready to go live, you know? Hey, here's how we're going to do things now. And that's a big shock to people. So you've got to put yourself in your team's shoes and your employees' shoes and say, how are they going to react to a massive change like this? You can't force it through at the last minute and say, hey, next Monday we're going live, learn this now. If you start that process much, much earlier, as the ProSci method will tell you, you're going to have a lot better chance of success at successful adoption of change, keeping project costs down, adopting best practices, and setting yourself up long-term to use tools as they're intended to be used.
That's great. I was going to say, you should be working for ProSci on the side. It's like
I do fully believe in them. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's as good as pitch for change managers I've ever heard. I mean, I agree 100% with everything they're saying. And I think if people aren't talking about change management seriously, it's the difference between some of these massive, especially the more massive and the more interconnected the projects are. It's the difference between failure and getting it across the line a lot of the time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, with that, I really appreciate your perspective and how you approach it, especially from the level of it's strategy, right? Like up the top, it doesn't matter what you want, what technology you're looking at. It's these pieces that really make the difference between it being successful engagement and not. It's like you said, you're not even really that pushing a solution. It's really just pushing good change is what it sounds like. And I really appreciate that.
Sure.
If people wanted to find you or they wanted to work with you or connect with you, can you give our audience a little bit more about what you're offering right now or any resources that they can connect with you with?
Yeah, sure, guys. Look, I'm always glad to have a conversation. I'm passionate about helping companies change. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, I'm there. There are not too many Ryan Pollyniaks out there. Of course, you can come to westerncomputer.com. We've got an interactive chat that is actually manned by people. Now, the first message is a bot, right? Hey, can I help you? But as soon as you reply, you'll get me or one of our team members, and we can interact and have a conversation. Of course, you can email sales or info@westerncomputer.com. And what we do is first establish fit. Can we help? Are we a good fit for you guys? And look, we'll turn people away, not because we don't want their business, but because maybe they're not in our wheelhouse. We don't try to be all things to all people. So feel free to reach out. We'll have a conversation. Glad to direct and advise and be that Sherpa on the front end and help you guys, strategize a roadmap.
That's great. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Ryan. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sam.